Hello everyone, I'm your friendly neighborhood astrologer Matthew Curry. Thank you for joining me once again on my never-ending journey towards proper lighting and camera angles. At least it's improved. This time you can actually see what I wanted you to see scrolling around in the background, so I figured that's a start. Anyway, let me get a chart up here. Can I do that while I'm live? No, I'll have to post the thing afterwards. Wanted to talk to you all for a few minutes about Tuesday's eclipse, the lunar eclipse in Capricorn. 24 degrees, and if that sounds a little bit scary, you might be right. You know, I talked about the previous eclipse last week, and it was kind of, I mean, no eclipse misses everyone, but last week's eclipse was kind of useful, more so than anything else. This upcoming eclipse, though, is very important because, as you probably know, or may know, it is actually going to be conjunct Pluto. And people who follow astrology, or astrologers generally speaking, whenever they hear a sentence that contains the phrase conjunct Pluto, they just automatically get scared. That's not necessarily how you should be handling it. But I will tell you that if you've noticed, there's been some department in your life that has been really dodgy, really painful, really stressful for the last year or two. It's probably because of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that's ongoing in around those degrees of Capricorn. Saturn's retrograding back away from that point at the moment, so we are getting a little bit of a break for it for most people. And I have to be honest with you, just like a family doctor, when there's an outbreak of the flu, I get busier. And, you know, that's actually a good thing, I think. Because it gives me the opportunity to show people what they're missing out on if they haven't gotten a reading. And one of the things I have found consistently over and over again with the readings recently is that if you are following your own transits and you're keeping an eye on these things, you're probably scared. And you don't need to be, because two things I should mention. If the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is doing tough stuff to one part of your chart, first of all, there's very good odds that it is also doing something good for you in some other part of your chart. Plus, of course, that's not the only transit that's happening. But what I would say, my main point about the eclipse, is that it is going to throw all those issues into a highlight that you've been dealing with for the last year or two, and it's going to be tough. I'll admit it. It's never just the eclipse alone that, you know, makes everything blow up, but it's often a trigger for more difficult transits. And excuse me, I'll need a little coffee. So, as I was saying, the eclipse is going to be putting a real emphasis on the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Frankly, I think all day Tuesday is going to be pretty tense for people because, if nothing else, an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, is also a full moon. And, you know, you don't need to be an astrologer to know those are tense. You just need to watch some horror movies. Think of it this way. During a new moon, there are certain emotional tensions that are built up. And during the full moon, they tend to get released. And this one's got some real snap going for it. So even if you aren't in that crowd of people who are being beat up by the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, odds are really good that someone around you is going to have a really bad day, or is going to be feeling really heavy and really unhappy. And I'm going to ask you now that if you are one of those people who has not had too much problem from this conjunction, and there are many of you, be ready to be supportive. You know, you can be the shoulder that someone can lean on. And if you are one of those people who has been hit particularly hard by it, I want you to keep in mind that I have done so many readings about this lately, so many, and I honestly cannot tell you, I can't think of a single one where the news was all 100% consistently bad. You know, if you're old enough to be sitting at a computer, you've probably gone through some bad transits in your time, and you're still here and you're still alive. So you got that going for you. Way to go, buddy. Also keep in mind that it's kind of easy to forget, but Neptune is actually playing a supportive role in all this, because it's at 18 Pisces right now, and that's forming the sextile to Saturn and Pluto. And a sextile is kind of quiet. It doesn't really shout its presence but it can be really incredibly helpful. And when you have a sextile to Neptune, it's got sort of a, if you've ever heard the phrase, let go and let God, or whatever the higher power is in your conception, fine. There's often a great deal of help to be had that way. But you know what? Mostly what I'm trying to say here. You see my email address scrolling across the screen. If you're having issues with Saturn-Pluto conjunction, if you're feeling the weight of things as the eclipse is approaching, you can write me. And also, just write and say hi. Write and ask for your free ebook. If you already got my free ebook, I was just going through my files today and I found another one. So write back and say, yeah, give me that one too. Oh, and one more thing, an announcement. If you keep an eye on these things, you know that the way marketers are putting it is, oh, millennials love astrology. Well, I think the truth is that lots of people love astrology and it's been popular for a long time. It's just that we now live in a society where it's easier to market these things. And, you know, if you've been keeping a close eye on this, you'll know that there's a lot of phone apps out there. You might have one installed on your phone. And I've been looking through all these phone apps. And if you read the backstory behind any of them, it's always like, oh, here's some guy with a bunch of money to throw around. So he hired a programmer and it got some slave labor, basically, to do the astrology. And I'm not dissing any of these apps, but you know who you are. And wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if there was an astrology app that was actually created by someone who, among other things, knows their astrology? We got one of those for you. The link is in at the top of this video. Go to the Google Play Store and look for Astrologeeks. It is so yummy. Such a great, great software application for your regular usage. Very pretty looking, very nice looking too. Oh, and also it'll also give you push notices when my blog entries come out on there. So maybe just a little bit of self-interest in telling you about this, but nonetheless, you know what? I'd be a big fan of this app even if I wasn't, if my articles weren't appearing on it. Anyway, let's get that out of the way. So in conclusion, fellow babies, if you're feeling the weight, keep in mind that the Sanskrit word for astrology translates into English as the science of light. It's not the science of darkness. It's not the science of heaviness. The universe, believe it or not, is actually on your side. And you're actually going to have the opportunity to get some fantastic stuff out of this. Not just the eclipse, but the big conjunction, which is exact in January, but we're all feeling it now one way or another. So anyway, y'all have fun with the eclipse. That was a little sarcastic. I swear to God, I'm not this tired looking in person, but it's been rough, I admit it. And if you want to talk, about your transits, there's an email address, bonus discount if you ask about the other picture that's been flashing on there. And while you're at it, go to the Google Play Store and get yourself a copy of Astrology, because it is that awesome. Anyway, it's been good talking to you. Going to do this again sometime soon. Will the lighting work out? Will the camera angle be better? You won't know unless you tune in. See y'all around.